Someone repeats your idea with a brighter voice. Everyone turns toward them. You notice disrespect before anyone names it. Why does it land so quickly? This is not drama. You notice disrespect because the room changes fast. The first wound is often the speed. You feel the shift before you can explain it. That tiny speed is the whole subject. At the shared project wall, you watch a blue magnet slide over your note. Nobody says your work was small. The magnet says it anyway. You keep your face still, but your attention has already moved. It has started measuring distance. A lighter version of the later hurt is already there, small enough for everyone to ignore. The body records the downgrade before language arrives. The strange part is how tiny the signal can be. A glance that skips you, a name said with less care, a question answered to the person beside you. You notice the clipboard corner pressing into your thumb, and the room suddenly feels arranged without you. Nothing has exploded. That is why it is hard to defend. The doubt begins because the evidence stays soft. Overthinkers are often accused of inventing things, but many are not inventing. They are comparing. They remember the last version of the room. They remember the warmer voice, the slower look, the extra second that used to be there. When that extra second disappears, the mind treats it like evidence. That missing second becomes louder than the words. You notice the brass directory plate beside the counter while someone explains your own point back to you. They use your words but remove your place from them. That is why the body reacts before the mouth does. It recognizes a change in rank. It is not only what was said, it is where you were put. The place shift is what hurts first. I call this small respect signals. Not big insults, not open cruelty. Small respect signals are the little changes that show where people place you. Who gets answered first? Who gets interrupted safely? Who gets treated like a full person, even when nothing dramatic happens? Once you see them, they are hard to unsee. The label matters because it stays usable. In a volunteer meeting, the marker rests in your hand. You start drawing the simple plan. Someone reaches past you and redraws it cleaner. You notice the marker cap against your palm, and the room praises the shape after your hand disappears. You are not angry yet. You are watching your part become invisible. The object remembers what the group forgets. And this is where it changes. The hurt is not only that someone took over. The hurt is that everyone understands the takeover without saying so. A group can be polite on the surface and still teach one person where the edge is. The edge can look like teamwork from far away. That distance is quiet but not imaginary. A fast mind can feel exhausting here. It catches tone, order, spacing, and timing. It does not wait for a confession. You notice the pale tape line on the floor, and your mind is already asking who was invited to stand inside it. Is this caution, or is it just experience working quickly? The question itself can become tiring. Sometimes the signal is a joke. The laugh lands before you decide whether it was harmless. You notice the rubber band around a stack of badges as your name becomes the easy target. Nobody raises their voice. Still, something in the room moves lower. The joke does not only say something about you, it tests what others allow. The room is learning what can pass. This is why it can look too sensitive from outside. Other people see one comment. You see the pattern around the comment. You see who repeats it, who smiles, who changes the subject, and who quietly lets it stay there. The disrespect is not always inside the sentence. Sometimes it is in the permission around it. That permission can feel colder than the joke. But that is not the real reason. The speed comes from memory. If you have been reduced before, your attention learns the early weather. It studies the first cloud. It does not wait for rain to prove that the sky changed. That can make you sharp. It can also make ordinary rooms feel loaded. Memory turns small weather into early warning. At a clinic counter, the plastic tray slides toward the next person, while your question is still unfinished. You notice the tray stops short of your wrist. Nobody refuses you. They just make your presence feel slightly easier to move around. The small respect signal is not a shout. It is a tiny rerouting of attention. That rerouting is what the mind catches. The stronger scene comes later in the same kind of room. A marker hovers over the board. Your idea sits half drawn. Someone says the final version louder. You hold the cap too long, feeling the exact second your contribution becomes background. The room keeps moving, which makes the moment feel even more private. No one else has to pause with you. That moment stays because it is not loud. If it were loud, everyone would know what happened. The hard part is the clean surface. The board looks organized. The plan looks better. Your face has to look fine. The disrespect hides inside improvement, which makes it harder to name without sounding difficult. So you carry the proof without witnesses. Small respect signals do not always mean danger. Sometimes they mean haste. Sometimes awkwardness. Sometimes a person is careless, not cruel. But here's the pressure. Overthinkers must decide quickly whether to ignore the signal or believe their own read. That decision can happen while everyone else thinks the room is normal. The private speed becomes the lonely part. In a group photo setup, the tallest person waves people inward. You notice the chalk mark where your feet were placed near the side. You smile because it is easier. Later, the picture proves you were present, but not exactly included. That is the sharpest kind of proof. It shows the body was there, not the belonging. Presence and inclusion are not the same. The middle pane is simple. You are not only asking whether they respect you, you are asking whether you will have to shrink yourself to keep the room smooth. That question can arrive before the insult fully forms. And once it arrives, even kindness from the room can feel like it has to be checked. The checking can make warmth feel conditional. And that is the quieter problem. Quick noticing can protect you, but it can also trap you in rehearsal. You notice the store shelf label slightly crooked, and somehow your mind keeps straightening the moment long after everyone else has moved on. The body leaves the place. The ranking problem stays open. This is where quiet becomes mentally crowded. In a community class, someone collects materials from everyone except you. You notice the clay tool resting untouched beside your elbow. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they assumed you would not need it. The uncertainty is what keeps the mind working. Disrespect is painful, but unclear disrespect can be even stickier. The missing tool becomes the open question. What makes disrespect hard is that proof arrives late. The feeling arrives early. You notice the thin shadow under a name card, and the room already feels split into people who are expected and people who have to prove they belong. This is not certainty. It is the first shape of a possible truth. The possible truth is enough to sting. The harder part comes later. At a repair counter, a numbered tag is placed beneath another tag, although you arrive first. The worker is busy. The line keeps moving. You notice the tag corner disappear, and your calm has to carry the correction. One small object now holds the whole question of whether you matter there. That question makes the correction feel heavy. There is a difference between noticing and knowing. Noticing says something changed. Knowing takes more time. Overthinkers often suffer in the gap between the two. They feel the shift now, but the room may not admit it until later. That gap is where the mind starts building arguments by itself. The arguments arrive because certainty does not. So the quick read is not always wrong. It is also not always complete. You notice the soft shadow under a closed supply box, and the scene stays unfinished. That unfinished feeling is often where overthinking begins. The mind wants a verdict, but the room only gives a trace. A trace can still change the body. The open part is this. Maybe the signal was small. Maybe it was real. Maybe it was both. Disrespect can arrive quietly, before certainty arrives at all. Not overthinking, but a fast read of distance. The room changes first. The explanation comes later, if it comes at all. That is why it keeps echoing.